Again, welcome to the session, Pinterest, Instagram, and Tumblr, how to build, measure, and maintain your customer base. We have a very talented panel today. I feel kind of overwhelmed by the amount of talent we have here. But again, I'm Allie Turner, social media specialist at Leapfrog Interactive, a digital marketing agency in Louisville, Kentucky. And before you ask, I am a Michigan fan, so I don't want to talk about last night's game. We also have Stephanie Howe from Z Gallery. She's also a social media specialist and oversees the programs there for the brand. We have Maury Postal, Associate Creative Director from Social at Ogilvy, and Sharad Verma, CEO and founder of Picora, which is formerly Pinfluencer. So very talented. If you'd like, my presentation today, since it is about Instagram, is on my Instagram. So you can find it at MyMBASparkles. I'm also on Twitter at MyMBASparkles. I kind of own that name. Or you can follow Leapfrog Interactive, the company I work for, at LFI on Twitter. So first, I just wanted to take a look and set the landscape for what we're going to talk about today. I always think it's important to go back and look at where we started. It's hard to believe that it was just 9 years ago that Facebook was created, and social media has changed a lot since then. So let's take a look back, and you'll find a great picture of me up in the corner when I signed up for my first Facebook account. I got my .edu email address, and I was so excited to join. And as you can see, the old Facebook, if you recall back before Timeline, which it seems like nothing existed before Timeline, Facebook was very text-heavy. It wasn't about a visual communication. It was very verbal. You would type something. You would also stalk photos on Facebook, which everyone still does. Don't say you don't. But it definitely wasn't as visually influenced as it is today. And hopefully, when we talk about these channels, you'll see why Facebook has changed, and it'll loop back. So first, let's talk about Tumblr. Unfortunately, Derek Gottfried was unable to join us today from Tumblr, so I'm going to do my best to paint a picture of what Tumblr is and how you can use it, as well as the other panelists here. So let's talk about Tumblr. So why should brands be on Tumblr? Why should you be on Tumblr? Tumblr is not only one of the top 10 fastest growing websites on the internet, but it has about 90 million users, or about 10% of the Facebook population, or real Facebook profiles, I should say. Tumblr also is a very active space. Around 89 million posts per day are made on Tumblr, and a lot of those are by brands. So let's take a look at some more benefits of Tumblr, maybe not just numbers. I'm not a numbers person. First of all, it's not just GIFs, and Michaela is not impressed by that. But anyway, I know me personally, one way I use Tumblr is to look at, like cat streams or advertising lingo streams or something like that, and that's very entertaining. And while those GIFs are something that a lot of people have a guilty pleasure of looking at Tumblr, that's not just what it's for. Instead, Tumblr is kind of the perfect storm of a publishing platform meeting a social media network. And what I mean by that, Tumblr you can customize to your brand fully. You can also put it on your company's URL. So it's really like a blog platform where it is searchable by Google. It's site indexed, so it has all those great benefits. But you have to remember, even though it is that type of platform, it's still a social media network. So any of the best practices that you put toward a social media network need to apply to Tumblr too. So it needs to be about the relationships and about the communications and finding out what makes your audience tick and maximizing on that. Another great quality of Tumblr is that it's based on micro-communities. So on Facebook, if you want to follow a brand, you would go follow AutoZone, which is one of my clients, for example. On Tumblr, you could search for AutoZone, or you could search for car repair, or classic cars, or DIY oil changes. And on Tumblr, you search by those tags rather than by a brand. And so brands can get a whole new audience just by tagging things in a correct way. And we'll see one brand who does that very well, which is Coke. So micro-communities based on passions, not just siloed brands. The next is staying power. Tumblr posts have a tremendous amount of staying power. A Facebook post, if you think about the life of one, about 95% of all Facebook activity on a particular post is going to be within a couple of hours of that post. It dies out very quickly. Tumblr, that's not necessarily the case. These posts have a lot more longevity, so if you post something, because it is tag searched, it really lives a lot longer. It lives beyond, a couple of hours like a Facebook post or a few minutes like a Twitter post. So if you want something a little bit more long-standing, you could think about Tumblr. So let's look at some brands who do it well. shall we? You see Success Baby approves these two in the background. The first is Coca-Cola. I know everybody talks about Coca-Cola and how great they are, but that's because they are. So their Tumblr blog is entitled Happiness Is. Their theme is all about happiness. So happiness is contagious. Happiness is enjoying an ice-cold beverage on a hot day. Happiness is spending time with your friends. And they take all of this subject matter about what happiness is, and they put it into their Tumblr stream in order to build a community around happiness and the happiness that Coke wants to market to its customers. If you look underneath that first picture of the neon sign, you'll also see that Coke has tagged this specific post as Coca-Cola, reblog, neon GIF, Coke GIF. So anyone who's searching those terms will find that post based on those search tags. So if you're searching for neon, that one could come up in your stream. If you're searching for GIF, that could come up in the stream. If you're searching for DIY, so you see how tags work there. Let's look at another brand. This is Whole Foods Tumblr online magazine, for lack of a better term. It's called Dark Rye. And this one, the content on the Dark Rye Tumblr stream is very great. If you like Whole Foods or you like the brand message there, I highly recommend you look at Dark Rye. But they've done a great job at identifying what their audience wants to see and using Tumblr as a very unique platform to communicate with them. So you can see, unlike a Facebook where you have a specific cover photo dimension, a profile photo, you have character limitations, Tumblr really doesn't have that. You can make it all your own. So that's one thing that makes Tumblr really, really, really great. So hopefully I've done Tumblr justice in those couple of minutes. If you have any more questions, hold them to the end and we can try to answer them. Let's move on to Instagram, my personal favorite. Follow me because I only have 45 followers and I want more. So why Instagram? Instagram's been around for a while, and I'm here to tell you it's not just about putting a filter on a picture, which some people think. But Instagram is one of the fastest growing channels, even though it's been around for a while. And currently there are around 100 million users, and each one of those users on average has uploaded 40 photos. So the users on Instagram are very active, 40 billion photos, you can't deny that activity. One great benefit of Instagram is that, like Twitter, you can search based on hashtags. So if you have an Instagram campaign, for example, Virgin Airlines created the hashtag MyVAExperience, which was probably a second iteration of the hashtag. No one got that joke, I'm sorry. Think about it, and then come back. So this customer curated content, Virgin encouraged its users to take pictures on their Instagram of their experience flying in a Virgin airline plane or where the Virgin airline has taken them. And then they curated that content to use all across their social channels. It was a very brilliant campaign, and I recommend that's a really good one to look at if you're trying to find examples of customer curated content. Another great benefit of Instagram is it's mobile. Before November 2012, Instagram didn't even have online profiles for its users, so it was all on your cell phone. And like a social media platform like Twitter, this behaves in a similar way. I see something, I take a picture of it, I put a filter on it, and it's in that really quick moment that I've captured something. So it's mobile, and you can reach your customers in those moments of life where they may not be at their desktop, which is a great feature of Instagram. Now let's look at Pinterest. If Instagram isn't for putting filters on pictures, Pinterest is not just for planning your wedding, even though most women my age would disagree. So why Pinterest? A lot of people think it does have that misconception where it's a lot of women in the 18 to 34-year-old demographic, and it is. I'm not going to say it's not. But Pinterest is one of those where the playing field is being equalized. 16% of all U.S. adults have a Twitter account. Well, now 15% of all of U.S. adults have a Pinterest account. So it's catching up in size with the rest of the social media networks. And Stephanie and Sherrod will really talk about Pinterest a lot more. One great advantage of Pinterest users and why your brand should be on Pinterest is time. If you look at how long people stay on social networks, on Pinterest, the average user will spend about an hour and a half sometimes on the site compared to on Facebook, 18 minutes, or Twitter, 20 minutes a day. So they spend a lot more time. And while they're spending a lot more time, they're also spending a lot more money. A user who is referred to your online site through Pinterest, on average, will spend about 70% more than if they come through Facebook or Twitter. So they're spending more time with your brand, and they're spending more money on your brand. Both good things. So if you have a retail brand or something that's skewed kind of female, or even not, you should really think about getting an online Pinterest account for your brand to tap into that audience who was willing to spend time and money with your brand. So let's go back. There's me doing my little jig again. I am from the South. And the old Facebook, coupled with these new visual platforms like Pinterest and Tumblr and Instagram, really had an influence on even the social giant that was Facebook. And so now, when you look at Facebook, it looks a little more like this. I look a lot better in that profile picture. But the new Facebook, the cover photo, the timeline, and even the new newsfeed that was announced a few weeks ago, it's all about the visual now. So Facebook has adapted to this idea that we are visual beings and we need to be spoken to in a visual way, which is great. It's great for marketers and visual-oriented people like myself. So I'm going to do a few best practices before I turn the mic over. First, show, don't tell. I could tell you that Frappuccinos are good, and everybody knows they are. They are delicious. I want one right now. I could tell you that, and you could walk away with, hey, Allie thinks Frappuccinos are good. What's the big deal? Or I could show you that. And if I show you a Frappuccino and I don't tell you what to think, then each of you in the audience can paint your own experience with Starbucks Frappuccino. You could think, I remember that one time I was really tired after I stayed up and crammed all night with my best friends in college and we got Frappuccinos. Or you could think, I used to go with my mom every Sunday to get a Frappuccino. But you're painting your own experience and I'm showing you something that will give you an emotional response. I'm not telling you, which is a great takeaway from this session. A next best practice is pick a theme, but just a note, obvious product placement is not a theme. Brands are very crafty at this, though, and they can work their brand into everything, but it's not just crystal geyser water in every shot. That's not a theme. So let's take, for example, Starbucks. I think I was really tired when I was putting this together because it's all about coffee. But as you see in this picture, this is one from Starbucks Instagram. This is capturing a moment, you know, of some nostalgia because it's a letter to Santa, but if you see in the corner, there's a cup of coffee. So the Starbucks message and product is still in there, but it's not the focus, which your brand should be kind of off-center and give it a more relatable topic to everyone rather than your brand. And the third one, think inside the frame but outside the box. All of these platforms that they're going to talk about today give you a frame to paint a picture in. You have certain dimensions on Instagram. They have to be squares. You have, to some degree, parameters on Pinterest with, you know, image sizes, or they look better in certain sizes, and they have character limits. But you have these parameters, but what you do in it is up to you. So at LFI, we like to think about things really out of the box. And for our client, Texas Roadhouse, which is one of the largest steakhouse chains in America, we thought outside the box for Pinterest a little bit, and we wanted to create a highly visual experience for users. So we took their Pinterest page and kind of revamped it a little bit. So instead of saying, okay, we have all these different boards and we're going to put random things in them and the Pinterest board is going to show up however it naturally is going to be, we said, let's take the brand page for Texas Roadhouse and just make it really impactful. And this is all within the parameters of Pinterest. But it's a different brand experience than one has seen before, so that makes it stand out. Plus, that steak looks pretty good. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to turn it over now to Stephanie from Z Gallery, and she's going to talk to you about what they do on their social channels.
Okay, maybe we'll just hold it here. Alrighty. Again, hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm from Z Gallery, and I'm their social media specialist. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today on how we've built and maintained communities on our social networks, and we're going to mostly focus on Pinterest today. But first, I'm just going to give you a quick background on the company overall. Z Gallery was founded 34 years ago with a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. It was 3 siblings who opened up a poster shop down in Southern California and ran their shop by day and framed posters in their parents' garage at night. And now it's grown to a mid-sized home furnishings retailer with 56 stores nationwide, an e-commerce website offering international shipping to customers, and presence across 7 social media platforms. And last year, we were honored by Home Furniture Business and ranked 3rd in social media effectiveness in their annual Power 50 Award. So Z Gallery is a very visual brand. When you walk into our stores, your senses are overwhelmed with bright colors and rich textures and unique shapes. And we also offer that online through lifestyle photos. We have beautifully styled rooms of bedrooms and living rooms and entryways and more. So it makes sense why our customers have a high level of engagement on visual content platforms, and specifically Pinterest. I think some statistics have shown that some of the top board categories on Pinterest are home decor, art, and design. So as we decided to expand our presence onto Pinterest, we definitely had a few goals in mind. First was more of a branding focus. We really wanted to translate that in-store experience online by visually expressing the inspirations behind our collections in stores. From another branding perspective, we really wanted to position Z Gallery as an inspirational source to our customers, and particularly for the chic, modern living type of genre. And third was more turning engagements into action. We really wanted our customers to discover, collect, and share their favorite Z Gallery looks and items that will ultimately lead to a sale or even a restyling effort. So, as Pinterest started to grow, so did our visits and sales to zgallery.com. And unfortunately, our efforts couldn't scale to the rate that Pinterest was growing. Before, we were manually pinning content, and we were trying as best as we could to manually measure success. And we couldn't, unfortunately, drill down to specific data details. We couldn't ensure that our pins were being effective, and we couldn't tell if we were pinning the right types of content, if we had and were creating the compelling content that our Pinterest users wanted. So last fall, we decided to invest in content management and analytics for Pinterest so we can better streamline our efforts and also measure success more accurately. And now using Pecora, we've been able to see how many people are pinning from zgallery.com a day. What are some of the top items being pinned from our website? What are the most engaging times of day and times we need to be hitting our users? So leveraging some of these smart analytics, we've been able to turn these insights into action and see some great results with our program. And I'm going to talk about 4 examples today. First was from a content management standpoint. We were able to streamline our editorial calendar for Pinterest and manage content a little bit better and really hit people and make stronger impact with our pins on our brand account. So looking at the most engaging times of day, as well as catering content to our most engaged boards, we were able to increase repins on our account by 450% over a few months. So that not only extended our virality and reach on Pinterest, but that also demonstrated to us that people were coming to our account for inspiration for the home. And as I mentioned before, Z Gallery is a very visual brand, and in stores we provide an overwhelming visual experience. But when you go on our website, you don't have that same effect. So as we're continuously working to translate that in-store experience online, our Pinterest insights have become very helpful. As we want to express the inspiration behind our collections, we decided to create themed boards about the inspirations behind each look or collection, boards on lifestyle focuses, and boards on interior design themes such as color or pattern. And with these boards, we've been able to also mix our merchandise pins with inspirational third-party images to really show the inspiration behind that look. So for example, our modern glamour board includes images of Hollywood Regency and modern sophistication with our mirrored furniture and luxe pillows. Our sea-inspired board has photos of crashing waves and sea life alongside our giant clamshell and oceanic artwork. So followers are not just immersed in our merchandise, but also the inspiration surrounding that looker concept. And also, we were able to see out of these themed boards, what are the most engaging, what are getting the most traction amongst our audience. And one of which is our Entertaining Essentials board, where we include third-party images of food and drink recipes with our beautiful lifestyle shots. You'll see a tablescape and then a dedicated place setting, and then also the merchandise items to complete that overall look that we're trying to communicate. Another popular board we have is a collaborative board with interior designers. Interior designers can use this to showcase their work of Z Gallery in their client's home. And pinners love this because they can see Z Gallery outside of the showroom and the beautiful lifestyle shots in a more stunning real-life setting. So leveraging our insights and creating these theme boards, we've been able to better position Z Gallery as an inspirational source for chic living, interior design trends, as well as lifestyle activities. Also from a merchandising standpoint, seeing the trending pins from our website or even our boards, we've been able to communicate that across other departments internally. And we've been able to, it's been helping our buyers with merchandising management. One example here is this rug, our Casablanca rug in aquamarine. We first introduced it as an online exclusive. Within a month after being live on our website, we saw a surge in pins of that specific rug, as well as the lifestyle shot that it was featured in. When we shared this with the buyers, they also shared with us that, pre-orders on this item were running extremely hot. So kind of taking these two insights into consideration, they were able to immediately order another round and extend the availability to other stores. So, from a retail standpoint, seeing trending items not only helps with possibly inventory management, but other merchandising efforts both online and in stores. And finally, merchandising trends, being able to see them through Pinterest gives us a good understanding of what type of behavioral trends are going with our customers. In last fall, for example, we saw a spike in pins and unique pinners on our website. And when we drilled down into the data to see exactly what they were pinning, we noticed that there was a high frequency of people pinning items onto boards themed around holiday, themed around gift and decor ideas. So boards like my wish list, or Christmas decorations ideas. So customers were already self-discovering items for holiday leading into the season. So we decided to launch our holiday gift guide and our decor boards earlier than what we originally planned. And as a result, we've been able to see a high number of visits and sales and repins from those boards. In November, our holiday gift guide and decor boards were ranked number 2 and number 4 amongst our top 5 most repinned boards out of 30, 40 boards. And comparing the gift guide and decor boards from this year to last year, repins were up almost 400%. I don't know if you guys heard in the keynote session over lunch with Walmart, but how they said 50% of people in 2011 were using social media to capture and share their gift ideas. So it's a trend we saw in 2011. It grew in 2012, and we see it growing again in the future. So kind of, taking a look at our Pinterest insights, what are some of the key things we've learned? And from a retail standpoint, we've learned that visual merchandising expands. It goes outside of just beautiful, captivating in-store displays. It translates online into visual content marketing, particularly for those visual commerce platforms like Pinterest, like Houzz, like Instagram and Tumblr. And as we start to create content specifically for these platforms, we constantly have to think, how will this be presented online? What would this look like on a Pinterest board? Will this translate well to Instagram? How will this further drive excitement and desire for this merchandise? So to conclude, smart image-based analytics not only give brands a great way to create more impactful content, but it will also drive discovery and awareness for merchandise or brand awareness across all social platforms. I'm going to toss this over to Shrag.
Thank you, Stephanie. Now you've had a great case study there about how you've used Pecora. So now we're going to have Shrag come up and tell us a little bit more about the story behind that story.
Sure. All right, my name is Sharad, and I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Pecora. We do analytics and marketing for Pinterest and helping brands, visually stunning brands like Z Gallery, understand their brand advocates, understand their influencers, measure and quantify ROI from Pinterest. So before I dive into Pinterest, I want to talk about the larger trends that we've seen on the web and how the web is essentially changing. So we think that web is actually becoming more and more image-centric. Consumers are interacting with each other via images. Brands are interacting with consumers via images. Consumption of media and commerce is now increasingly happening on visual feeds. So while text web, which is primarily accessed on productivity-focused, task-oriented devices like PCs, is driven by search ads, is served by keywords, single product SERPs, in all the discovery and demand creation is actually happening on the search box. Visual web, on the other hand, is accessed on entertainment devices like tablets, and the usage pattern tends to be drastically different. Consumers coming back from home are dialing into visual feeds like Pinterest. They're in front of the TV. They are thumbing through the feeds on Pinterest and other social networks like House, Tumblr, Fancy, and they're discovering products. So web is becoming more and more like TV. It's more lean-back, curious commerce. And so the nature of the traffic that is originating from visual web and from these devices also tends to be different from what we saw in search. And so we think that visual web is sort of the new top of the funnel, and marketers have to think about visual web in a very different way. So while text web, again, bottom of the funnel, consideration, comparison shopping, the marketer's goal is to acquire traffic and capture demand against keywords, and really capture that intent. Visual web is really about images. It's about discovery. It's about curation. It's about really greeting the user when they actually visit your website. And the reason why we're excited about visual web is because it's new and it's growing exponentially. It's growing very fast. So if you look at Pinterest, it grew from 10 million unique visitors to 37 in the past 1 year. Tumblr has gone from 18 to 26. House, which is a visual network for home decor, has gone from 4 to 14. And Tumblr has like 40 billion posts. Instagram is also growing pretty rapidly. And this combined with tablets, like tablet penetration is doubling year over year. Tablets also yield 20% higher time on site and 30% higher conversion rate, which means when people are spending time on tablets, they're lingering on your website, which goes to indicate that they're window shopping and they're discovering and they're browsing more products. And so I coined this term D-commerce, which is really discovery commerce. And the crux of this is really creating an action between buying and bouncing. So if shopping is a 5-stage process, and if you're shoving your transaction page to someone who's just curious, who came to your website looking for some products, that's probably not the ideal experience. The ideal experience is to retain the user. And so pinning is an action between buying and bouncing that generates a lot of virality, expands the click funnel, and drives return traffic. And so in a web which is driven by discovery commerce, you would have products chasing consumers. And as a retailer or as a brand, your message or your product has to be found continuously in these visual feeds. That's where all the demand creation is actually happening. So it's not about consumers visiting your site. You have to proactively go and market your product or your brand in these feeds. And it's not about just a traditional funnel. It's really about manipulating and controlling the rate of image curation. So the interesting thing about Pinterest is that unlike Facebook, where you have to have a very active presence, and as a brand, if you don't post anything on the fan page, you don't get any incremental downstream activity. Fab, for instance, for the longest time did not even have a profile on Pinterest, and we're getting high single-digit traffic from Pinterest. And that's happening because site visitors are organically stumbling onto interesting products and building collections by using bookmarklet or pinned button. So we think that Pinterest is the Google of the visual web, right? It is the place where consumers are building their collections. It is that central memory. So recently, I think just the other day, TechCrunch published an article about Wayfair launching something called Clipbar, which allows their site visitors to collect products as they're browsing Wayfair on Wayfair. And we believe that at some point, that collection feature, collection will actually become a feature, and it will become part of a lot of websites, and those collections would eventually be stored and exported and shared with people on Pinterest. So why is Pinterest so exciting? It's because it's the first network which is fundamentally about products. It is really about virtual ownership of products, and that's why repinning or pinning as an action is extremely vital. As compared to Facebook, where the consumers are in the mindset of sharing, and you've got to think about psychology of sharing, which is an impediment. On Pinterest, the consumer behavior is really about building collections for yourself, which is a lot more uninhibited. So if you look at this, Pinterest is really a collection of visual hyperlinks. Hyperlinks they've been the backbone of internet. Links are the reason behind all traffic and all navigation actually happens. And the reason why a lot of retailers and brands have been getting traffic is because these are really attractive looking links. So pins are actually hyperlinks, but they are really products that people want to own virtually. So that's the difference. And Pinterest now has like tens of billions of pins, and it's a rapidly growing network, which also drives sales. So Pecora works with hundreds of customers and brands, some very large ones like Sephora, Z Gallery, Target, Steve Madden, and we also connect with Omniture and Google Analytics and Core Metrics to measure the ROI of every pin and measure and map the pin to purchase path. And in the month of December, the revenue per pin, and this is last click only, this is not even multi-channel attribution, so the revenue per pin was 64 cents. So the takeaway from this is that a pin is a link, a pin is a distribution opportunity, and the more pins your brand gets, the more revenue, and the more clicks, the more page views you can actually drive. And by the way, Pinterest, according to ComScore and Rich Relevance, is a channel that generates higher average order value. It generates $180 in purchase as compared to Facebook, which is $80. And if you think about why that is happening, is when a user is on Pinterest consuming images in their feed, if they choose to click on one image and then double click to go to your site, it's an indicator of a very high intent for that image that represents a product, because of all the images they could have clicked, they actually chose to click on that particular image. So next to search, this could be a very high confidence, very high intent channel. The other thing that we are really excited about Pinterest is around virality. So 80% of pins are repins, and that is primarily because of the collection selfish behavior. And if you compare that with Twitter, 1.4% of all tweets are retweets. So this is amazing, right? Because while the viral loop has always existed with Facebook like and tweet and tumble buttons, it really comes to life with Pinterest pinned buttons. And so what starts to happen is it kickstarts what I call a very happy viral loop, where if your website is optimized for pinning, if it's around images, if the pinned buttons are integrated, if they're about the fold, it yields more pins, which then go out into Pinterest, more repins, drive more clicks and more page views, and then more opportunity for pinning. So which is where the way to optimize Pinterest is yes, you should have a profile and a brand voice on Pinterest, but the place to start is to look at your own website and see how you can optimize that for pinning. So I'm going to show you some screenshots of our analytics dashboard and what some of the brands are doing with it. So this is a screenshot of top pins by revenue, which is actually top images by revenue, and we track top images that are trending on your website, top images from your boards, and we apply sophisticated image recognition, URL extraction to produce a dedupe feed of your images that are generating the most amount of engagement, virality, clicks, and ultimately revenue. And the way I look at this is these are really your digital mannequins, and these digital mannequins are images that people are getting attracted to and clicking through to enter your website. Now, they may end up buying a $20 lipstick, but they may be pinning and repinning these aspirational products, which are ultimately responsible for driving a lot of traffic. So we track pins, we track pinners, followers, boards, and all the data that you have available for yourself, except for revenue data, is available for your competitors or other brands that you actually want to track. So So we've talked about brand advocates a lot, like in the past few years. But with Pinterest, the notion of brand advocates actually comes to life very strongly. And if you look at this dashboard, this is really saying that, this is for Steve Madden, that Andrea in the past 7 days went to stevemadden.com and on her own pinned 75 products. Now that's what you call a brand advocate, by action. And our dashboard sort of lends identity to your brand advocate, advocate and influential pinner traffic. And then you can, as brands are doing one-on-one marketing, brands could also sort of, use a feature called Pinner 360, which tells them exactly what they're pinning from their brand, so they can have meaningful contextual conversations with these brand advocates on Twitter and other channels. And then a lot of brands are sort of learning from other brands because Pinterest is still relatively new, and the way to engage with Pinterest is different from Facebook and Twitter. So again, our dashboard allows brands to add unlimited number of competitors, and they can not only track their performance and benchmark core metrics like how many unique pinners did they get in a particular time period, how many new followers, but also look at like core performance metrics and ratio metrics like pins per day, virality as in repins by pin, followers per day, and also sort of get a understanding of what images for their competitors are trending, what products for their competitors are trending, which pinners of their competitors or other brands are more engaged. And all of that helps form a cohesive and high-performing content strategy for Pinterest. So we think that, I was talking to you earlier about the nature of the web and how it's shifting and why keyword-heavy pages are not really optimized for the new top-of-the-funnel discovery traffic. So the top-of-the-funnel discovery traffic is in the mode to browse. And a page like this, all it offers is a single product image and creates a higher bounce rate. And so it loses the opportunity for the users to be engaged in pinning or an action between buying and bouncing, which ultimately feeds the viral loop and expands the click funnel. So we think that the right experience is, it's a product that we're experimenting. We call it Gallery. It is a product which is really about infinite recommendations. So it is designed to retain the user. It is designed to retain the user on tablets or visitors coming out of Pinterest and help them discover products in an immersive experience. So in an example like this, as and when this goes live, somebody clicks on a pin on Pinterest, they land on a page. The top of the page is really about the product, but the bottom of the page is really like Pinterest, except that this infinite feed of products is from your website, all in-stock products with price integration, built from social signals, semantic signals, and personalization signals, which means if this user has been pinning a lot of red cushion covers, from the gallery experience, those are the products that they actually see on top. So we think this is a unique experience, and this is the kind of visual merchandising which will eat the web. I think innovations start from social networks. There was a time when you could only like something on Facebook, and now you can like content everywhere. We think visual feeds as a concept started with Pinterest, but will become available and will become very seamless on the entire web. The other thing that we're launching is Gallery Trending page, which is so this experience is live on World Market, and this is really to power the inspiration or trending section. So what our technology does is, we mine top products from Pinterest and Facebook and eventually Tumblr and Twitter, and we merchandise that in a trending visual feed. Again, all in-stock products with price integrated. So what this really does is it allows you to create this new engaging visually merchandised experiences to engage your social visitors. Some of the things that one needs to think about as we are entering visual web is mobile, right? And mobile and tablets. And what's the hardest thing to do on mobile and tablets? It's to type, and the easiest thing is to tap on images. And so you need to think about mobile web and what is the right experience when consumers navigate to either their homepage or category detail pages. Is it really just optimizing your site for mobile, or is it fundamentally re-architecting the experience? And we think, given the amount of time people spend on mobile, which influences buying, even though it may not be yielding direct commerce just yet, it's an opportunity for brands and retailers to engage those mobile visitors by, again, applying a visual feed, very thumb-friendly experience. One of the things that our our technology helps brands with is to run Pinterest promotions to help them acquire followers, to help them get viral impression of their products and pins. So we've run a number of promotions. So this is an example for Godiva, who ran a Reap and From Board promotion around Easter. And brands can host this promotion easily on Facebook or on their own website. What we really do is take the pain out of administering and managing a promotion. So we could track your pinners, we could track all the metrics around a promotion seamlessly. So we crawl Pinterest to do that. And so if you look at some of the metrics, Blue Nile recently ran a promotion with us, and they recently interviewed with Internet Retailer. They got 5,000 followers, which is more than 200% what they usually get when they're not running a promotion. Jetsetter got millions of viral impressions by running a promotion. Wayfair actually got a 27% lift in site traffic. So Pinterest promotions are not just about, hey, click on this Facebook like and become a fan. They're a lot more creative. They're a lot more engaging. And so the more unconfined pinning experiences you can offer to pinners as part of your promotion, you're likely going to get more participation. This is an example of a dashboard where we track every single participant and their eligibility and see if they actually did the actions you wanted them to take, which is, did they really repin from the board? Did they really create the board with the name you wanted them to create? And you could see all metrics in a single unified dashboard around participants, pins, repins. You could see reach impressions. You could also see if they actually drove website visits, page views, actual purchases, and revenue. And I'm going to end this by just talking about how do you really measure your presence on Pinterest. And again, it's different from what brands have actually used on engagement channels like Facebook and Twitter. So it's really about measuring the velocity of improvement. And so some of the core metrics are pins per day. So it's not about the cumulative number of pins you have. It's really on a daily basis. There's a war on share of voice on Pinterest. Etsy used to get a lot of pins in the early days because they were the dominant brand. Not, that pins per day has actually gone down. So pins per day is a health of your brand on an ongoing basis. Again, repins per pin is a measure of virality. Do consumers on Pinterest want to repin, want to virtually own your products? Visits per pin is, again, are your pins yielding incremental site traffic? And then same as revenue and page views per visit. Followers per day and time on site also helps you understand, is this Pinterest visitor actually engaged in a site? So, my information is right here, and I'll be here to answer any more questions you might have about Pinterest. Thank you.
Cool. So I'm Maury Postal, and I figure we'll make this a little more dynamic. I know you've heard a lot of great information, but let's actually get into what actually goes on to these platforms, because we're talking about visual platforms, and I think it's very important to talk about the visual part of that. So I'm going to ask you a question. What is this? No. What is it? What am I showing you a picture of? Who is in this picture? Who else is in this picture? So just so we are very clear what we're looking at, this is a picture that Justin Bieber posted, and he is with a pet monkey. And I don't know if you can read the caption, but that's not really relevant, because the really relevant number is how many likes and how many comments and how you're looking at the future. Because this is how people communicate now, and it's Justin Bieber and a pet monkey. So has communication evolved, or has our common language? So this image, I think, is wonderful because it represents an escape. You look at this, and you don't have to necessarily know where it is in particular, but it's somewhere you want to be. The glasses, the way everything's kind of situated, it's very dreamlike. You kind of look at this, and I've completely pulled it out of context, and you have no idea. Does anyone have any idea who made this? No. So, Beyonce. Let's look at another image. Same type of idea. This is great. Where is this? Antarctica? It's somewhere exotic. And it's a pair of glasses. Completely out of context, right? But it's something that I imagine some of us would want to escape to, right? We're sitting here, it's kind of cold. I know I'm under the air conditioner, so I can visualize this very well. But if we put it back in context, we can see that this is actually an image from 1936. It's by a famous photographer, Herbert List. and it is actually an advertisement from 1936. This is something that's been elevated to the level of art, right? That second image, that was shot by my friend Colin for Warby Parker in Antarctica, and that was a few weeks ago. But what these images represent is this idea that people now communicate and have always communicated visually. The tools have kind of evolved, but this idea of what these images represent, they've kind of stayed the same throughout time. So it's kind of ironic that we've been talking about all this, because this is really what advertising and marketing and everything was built around a visual story. So really what we're looking at here is the idea that an image conveys must transcend ordinary language, because honestly, we live in a global world that everyone around the world has the same tools that they communicate with. So Tumblr isn't something that just exists here in San Francisco. Tumblr exists all around the world. So an image that is blogged in Tokyo could have a lot of relevance to someone who does live in San Francisco. And I think that's what's kind of really liberating about taking photos, because photos don't require, a good photo doesn't really require a backstory. So what are we looking at here? Would you like to know what the hell is going on the other side of that wall? Are you intrigued by what is actually happening? So this is Brussels in 1933. Again, another famous work by a famous street photographer. But the idea of what this image actually is something that stands the test of time. You look at this and you just can imagine what on earth is A, going on behind that wall, and B, where in Brussels is this? And why is his nose up to it? Is it that, like, you really have to get into it to actually see it? And this image I love, because all you see is Martine's legs. Who is Martine? I have no idea who Martine is. She's reading, though. It looks like it's a beautiful sunny day. But it's something, again, that you want to actually find out more because it's captivating. It draws you in, and there's no text. There's nothing here except an image. There's tones and shades, and it's black and white. But is it really black and white? Can you imagine right now what that room actually looked like in 1967? Where was this taken? There's so many questions that just simply having an image on the screen or wherever you're viewing it, you kind of want to read into it, and you kind of want to fantasize that maybe you're the one that's sitting next to her. Maybe you are Martine. So these are things that we have to think about as content creators, because I think the most interesting thing is that we are now empowered to provide this stuff that people actually want to interact with. I think now we've completely embraced this culture that we all communicate visually. So this I took on Saturday in Santa Monica, and it was a complete accident. I take a lot of photos, but I walked by and I snapped this, and I edited it all on my phone. And you look at it now, and you can't really see the faces of those people, right? But if you could, well, you can't really see it, but if you actually looked on the screen, they're holding happy birthday balloons, and they're completely tatted out, and it makes no sense because this part of Santa Monica is just completely touristy. So these people completely stand out. But the backstory here, it's like, whose birthday party were they at? Why do they have a skateboard? I mean, there's all these different questions that you want to ask yourself, or possibly be intrigued by what's going on here. And there isn't anything that kind of supports this. So this can live alone on Instagram. It can live alone on Tumblr. But it's something that it's kind of like fodder for a fairy tale that you can kind of picture in your head exists somewhere. So a modern brand must radiate emotion. And emotion is conveyed through imagery. And the really cool thing about imagery is that I've shown you still images. And still images, I think, as a creative person, I respect everything that a still image really brings to the table. You can create so much emotion just by using typical graphic conventions. So that idea of like how you crop something, the idea of, you know, exactly the framing of it and the colors it uses, black and white, that can say a lot. But in the modern world, sadly, there's so much going on that people really need a little bit more. So this is an animated GIF, a cinematograph, that we created for Lincoln. And the interesting thing about this is it's a fairy tale. This moment never actually happened. This was something that we concocted. It was like a dream that I had. I woke up and I wrote down on a napkin, beatniks in an alley. So the interesting thing is this is a 1953 Lincoln Capri. This was shot in November. This entire thing was done in November. Beatniks probably would never have driven a Lincoln Capri convertible. But the people that are alive now that we wanted to reach, they have no idea that these are people who weren't alive then. It's a fairy tale. You want to be either the person dancing or the people that are standing around in this alley. Who knows what they're doing, but this idea that you can kind of put yourself in the shoes of these people, and that when you see this, so imagine like you come across this on your Tumblr dashboard, right? There's just tons and tons of stuff. You have animated cats, you have, images from around the world, things that are kind of jumping out for your attention, and then you see this. You see an image that is hypnotic, but it's not as committal as a video. It's something that stands out, and it's something that it feels much more visceral than just a simple still image. And this is now the language that people communicate with. So instead of simply typing something out, you're going to use an emoji on your phone, right? That's this extension of this visual society. But now, instead of an entire movie, it's like, I want to see this. This can have a soundtrack in my head that never really existed. This can be the beginning of an entire brand saga, or it could be the end of it. You can place this into any context that you want, and the best thing is this works anywhere. This works just as well on this screen as it did on the Tumblr dashboard. You can send that in an iMessage. Did you know that animated GIFs work in an iMessage? So it's like you can actually communicate through Zoolander GIFs now. That's a possibility. And I think that's what's so exciting is that we have so many tools at our disposal as marketers that we really have to look at what our customers are doing and why did they kind of evolve to this point. So a really evocative image tells a complete story in a modular fashion, i.e. it can live anywhere and it still communicates the same message. So this is another image done by my friend Colin, and it was for an indie clothing company. But you look at this and it just radiates just so much. It's nostalgic. It's energetic, right? You see this and you can imagine that it's a beautiful fall day. But more importantly, the photographer himself, he has to kind of radiate that emotion too. So if someone who's creating this stuff, and this is the classic definition of art, right? Someone who's consciously creating something beautiful, this kind of depicts so much about a brand. And the best thing is that this, without any sort of backstory, without any other supporting visuals, really defines a moment that people might want to live forever, right? So that's how we communicate anyway. When we talk, we say words that we choose hopefully very carefully, or we use emojis we choose very, very carefully, or synonyms we choose very carefully. But this idea that people now have access to this, and then they can make it their own through pinning it on Pinterest, through reblogging it on Tumblr, they can kind of take ownership of it. And I think that's what's so cool, is that a lot of what we produce now defines who people are. I mean, that's what advertising always was, right? We look at the Mad Men era. That was selling this idea, this sort of, it was a dreamscape, but it was much more, I think it was easier to fool people because they didn't have access to communication tools to actually discuss it. And now it's like, this can live right next to an animated cat but stand on its own. And that's what's so exciting about kind of the modern landscape, because really what we're looking at is a modern brand has to speak in hues, composition, and form. You can't simply have the same picture of a dress over and over again and expect people to actually respond to it. It's the idea that the gestalt is now louder than words. So the idea that all this stuff that people are coming in contact with, they remember. They know. They've seen it before. It's kind of like when you meet someone, you're like, I know you before, but I don't know where I exactly met you. And it's our responsibility as marketers to understand and respect that all the people that we're trying to reach are very smart. They remember where they saw something, and they know that if you're regurgitating something that they saw on TV, they're not going to respond. If they saw a print ad that you just regurgitated on Tumblr, they don't care. If a TV ad didn't work, don't try to break it up into little animated GIFs because it sucked the first time. So it's like, people are very smart, and we like to think as marketers it's a pretty high and mighty thing that every morning the way that we kind of pitch it is, oh, I'm so excited to wake up today and share whatever brand X, Y, and Z made. I can't wait to go through my entire Facebook newsfeed and just share everything. No one does that. You have to really try very hard to produce things like this that speak so much even without motion. This is a still from that same Lincoln campaign that I love because in the actual animated GIF, that scarf moved. And that was wonderful. That was very real, and you could actually see it moving. But this implies motion. This says something to me that it's much more challenging to convey. Like, look at her face. Look how beautiful that emotion is on her face, that sunlight. This is something that feels like it could live on forever, that this could live in an art gallery, and that this is much more than just simply advertising. This is actually giving someone a real way to dream. That's what we really should be aiming to do. It's not just simply putting out content. It's trying to make people's lives better just in incremental moments. So I leave you with that in sort of like an inspiring thought, which is remember that the people that you're reaching out to have many different inputs now. They have access to the world's information, and they really are trusting us to produce the things that they communicate with. So it's a very powerful task that we have.